it will be a more intimate session. So feel free to keep asking questions and engaging.
Cool. Will do.
All right.
Thank you for
All
hosting
right.
this. I'll put myself.
Sure. Sure. Hi, Abhi, Alexandra, Jesse, and all the autopilots, and Jinxian. So firstly, yeah, for everyone joining us for the first time, like this series is called the Keeping It Simple series, and also colloquially called the Kernel in Singapore series because most of the speakers are from Singapore. And this is a series we launched recently with Clifton from Arbitrum, who spoke about Web3 governance, Lisa Tan, who wrote the book on economics design, and she spoke last week on crypto economics. Today we have libevm, who will speak on MEV. And these sessions are being facilitated by QZ, who has been our wonderful peer mentor, and me, like Sid from Kernel. So today we have libevm from Cryptic Woods. And if you are like even remotely active on Twitter, you would know who libevm is. So we're really very honored and excited to have libevm here, our library. So yeah, feel free to start sharing more about maximum extractable value. I'll stop my screen share now and let's welcome libevm, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sid. Am I pronouncing that correct? Sid or Sid? For the intro. Very humbled to be included. Let me share my screen before I continue. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. So yeah, today we'll be going through MEV or maximal extractable value. I'll try and keep it as simple as possible because I know this is, for me, this is quite a deep rabbit hole that can take up quite a bit of separate domain expertise. So let's jump right in. So a little bit intro about myself. I'm at libevm on Twitter. I currently have a few projects. I'm actually from Melbourne. I live in Melbourne now, but I grew up in the Southeast Asia region, so Singapore is close to home. So if anyone's actually down in Melbourne, feel free to hit me up. We could go out for drinks or coffee or whatever. Called Penguin Build, and it's currently live on mainnet. And I think till date we've built about 15,000 blocks roughly, so hooray. And we also have a MEV Explorer called libmev.com, which we'll be using later on in this series to kind of have a deeper dive and a more interactive and deeper dive into MEV and some of the bundle examples that I'll be showing you. And feel free to interrupt at any point in time if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to dive a little bit deeper into any specifics. Just type it out in the chat. Hopefully it's not just all the pilots today, but let's get started. So this is kind of like the contents, the table of contents. So just so you guys have a rough outline. So we'll go through like the intro of MEV, the types of MEV, and then we'll go through like a rough timeline. In my mind, there was 3 stages. There's the pre-Flashbots era, there's the Flashbots blind auction era, and then there's the like builder search era where we currently are. And afterwards, we'll go through the Dark Forest together, and hopefully we'll find some interesting bundles. Awesome, perfect. So MEV, it used to be called minor extractable value until it became ETH 2.0, which became validators. So they renamed it to maximal extractable value, not validator extractable value, because that didn't make any sense. But also MEV, the term MEV kind of stuck, so we kind of just renamed it to maximal. There are 2 different types of MEV. I don't know if anyone can see this. I just realized the font might be a bit small, but there's short tail and long tail MEV. So short tail MEVs are the ones that are ultra competitive, but they have a extremely high number of opportunities. Actually, I think I screwed this up a little bit. I think this is opportunities and this is competitive. Anyway, just ignore this slide. So short tail MEVs are the ones that are very competitive and have a lot of opportunities, whereas long tail MEV are the ones that have very, very few frequencies. Actually, I think this would be, yeah, very little frequencies, but it's not very competitive. So one example of competitive or short-tail MEV would be stuff like arbitrage, where you, or sandwich attacks, where you try and, because there's so much trading activity going on behind the scenes, it's very easy to kind of arbitrage between the two pools. And in fact, as we started this talk, it's been about, I think, 5 minutes since we started the talk, and just assuming that every block is 12 seconds, I'm sure there's been more than like 50 plus arbitrages that's happened on mainnet since. So yeah, so short tail is very competitive, very high frequency opportunities, whereas long tail is opportunities that, MEV opportunities that are less frequent and less competitive. And we can dive into specific details on that later on, but I think one of the more common ones that we found early in the days was the almost like you're doing some kind of DevOps thing for some protocol where you help them call a function, for example, advance, and then you get like some money for calling it. And because no one else knew of its existence, you were pretty much just getting money for calling a function. Anyway, so I run the dashboard libevm.com, where we try and quantify the value of MEV extracted on the short tail end. And so since the merge, which is roughly a year and a half now, there has been $400 million in revenue, not profits, revenue that has been extracted. So roughly $73 million of that has been profited from MEV searches, and about 270 million has been tipped to the validators, while $58 million have been burned as fees. So this isn't couch money, but it's significant enough that it could be life-changing if you're good in it. But it's also not like competitive. It's not big enough for the big boys, but some big boys, like for example, Jump Trading or Wintermute, are in the game. And as you dive deeper into the competitive scene, you might interact with them. So how does
Like library, I
yes?
have a question here, and anyone else feel free to like mention questions in the chat as well. Like what's the history of MEV, like attacks as well as opportunities in different blockchains?
Oh,
Like we started hearing more about it in recent years, but what's
yeah,
like
yeah.
since the early days of Ethereum, like what's the story behind MEV being like?
Yeah, so actually I'll be going into that later
Oh,
on.
oh,
So
nice.
that
All
was
right.
that was the timeline.
Mhm.
Like pre-flashboards, flashboards, flying auction, and the builder searcher. So we'll go through that a little bit.
All right.
So maybe we'll just continue with the slides. I'm just trying to give some more background, and then we can dive into the timeline, and we can talk about different chains as well. But yeah, how does MEV earn money? Again, two ways: short tail and long tail. A very generalized way of quantifying them. Short tail are things like front running, back running, and liquidations. Long tail, where you front run government proposals with conviction. On-chain DevOps, as I mentioned before, for example, CryptoKitties give birth. If this doesn't make sense to you, do not worry. We will go through the live examples at the end of the slides. Free private keys and free money. We will also go through these later on, and Ethereum proof of work, which is my favorite one so far. Again, do not worry, we'll go through these one by one. So front running, for those of you who are not aware what front running is that it's pretty much based on knowledge of the public mempool in Ethereum. We can kind of manipulate prices on chain to suit our needs. So for example, the most common front running attack is a sandwich attack, where a user, for example, places a transaction where they want to buy an asset at a specific price. Let's call that price A. This transaction is submitted to the public mempool. The searcher hears this transaction and identifies that this user is willing to buy at this price, buy but is willing to take a loss, for example, up to 5% or even 10%. So what the bot does is that it actually front runs the transaction and buys the asset that the user is going to buy up to the slippage tolerance of the user's transaction, of which the user can then buy and pushes up the bot price even higher. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The user's order pushes the price even higher, and the bot sells and profits from this whole transaction. So this is a very predatory transaction because we're essentially using public information for our own personal gain, and this is usually quite frowned upon. So this is a front-running attack. There's also a back-running attack. Oh, so courtesy, thank you, Calsop, for such good visuals. I was gonna make my own visuals, but I couldn't beat the visuals from Calsop, so that's why I have them here. But yeah, back-running is a little bit different. Back-running, I guess, is what they call the quote-unquote okay kind of MEV, because essentially what you're doing is that you're making the market more efficient. So for example, let's say user A wants to buy some assets on exchange 1, but the asset is purchasable on both exchanges 1 and 2. But the user didn't know that, so he or she only bought up the asset on exchange 1. What that happens is that creates a price imbalance. And so what the bot then does is it buys on the cheaper exchange and sells on the higher priced exchange, thereby profiting the delta. It's like a very trivial form of arbitrage. This is generally a little bit more, this is very well accepted, actually. This is a net positive in some sense, because you're making the market more efficient and you're enabling price discovery in a more efficient manner. So those are like the two major types of short-tail MEV, front-running and back-running. And I don't know if you noticed, but it seems like there is a general theme of MEV. Yes, slippage is the difference between the expected price. Thank you, Kat. But yes, the general theme of MEV is that you want your transaction to be placed at a specific location in the block. For example, in the front-running transaction, you would like your transaction to be in front and behind the user's transaction. So that's why it's called a sandwich attack, because the user's transaction will be in between your transaction. And for back running, you want your transaction to be directly behind the user's transaction, hence back running. So the general theme of MEV is that you want your transactions to be placed at a specific location in the block. So in the pre-Flashbots era, there was this, it was a different game. It was called the PGA Wars, or Priority Gas Auction, because how you would get your blocks, how you would get your transactions to land at specific locations in the block was via chance, like timing, because back then the Ethereum nodes would order the transactions based on time. So what that meant was that you as the searcher, you would spin up maybe like, I don't know, like 10, 20 different you would 10, 20 different VPSs at different locations, and every time they hear an opportunity, you would spam the same transactions across the network because it was ordered via time. Eventually, that's the protocol, the EF realized that, hey, this is kind of making our gas prices kind of ridiculous. So what they did was that they implemented a hotfix, which was to order the transactions via gas price, which didn't really alleviate the spam, because now instead of spamming it from multiple locations, you could spam it from multiple locations, but you just had to tweak the gas so that your gas was plus one way or minus one way, higher or lower than the transaction you were trying to insert at. For example, if this user transaction in the sandwich attack was 10 Gui, what you would do is insert a transaction at 10 minus 1 Gui and 10 plus 1 Gui, so that your transaction would be before and after. And this would be 10 minus 1, since you want your transaction to be after it. The reason why you would spam the network with transactions is because of statistical arbitrage. So for example, if your payout for getting that opportunity is $1, and your opportunity cost is 1 cent, you might spam. Remember, spamming isn't free because you will get reverted transactions. But it still was a very terrible UX because that would pump up the gas price until it was unusable. But anyways, if the opportunity cost is 1 cent, but the payout is $1, and statistically you were going to make maybe 81 cents, you were going to win it 81% of the time, you might spam 80 transactions. This phenomenon is actually still, it's still around. It's still on cheap change, for example, AVAX or Phantom. And if you look closely, you can still end. This is for chains that don't have a service like Flashbots, by the way. You would find a bunch of failed transactions and people spamming the whole chain just to try and win that one opportunity. And I think Moonbeam still has that. But anyway, so
Library, we have one
Flashbot.
question in the chat from
Yes.
Abhi.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Kat has been very kind in responding to them. So
Oh,
can we go through them once?
yes, yes. Yeah, I just realized it doesn't auto scroll. So Abi asked, backrunning in case of exchanges, it is publicly visible. It will only be visible if you're backrunning a decentralized exchange. It will be visible, but it wouldn't look like a backrun if you're arbitraging against a centralized exchange because we don't know your position on the centralized exchange, so we cannot cross-reference it. But it will be visible if you're arbitraging it on the decentralized exchange. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I have a question like did MEV ever happen on Bitcoin, or was it ever possible? Like
Yes,
in the
yes,
case of
actually, I think very recently there was a MEV that happened on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is slightly different, and depends how you define MEV. For me, the definition of MEV is just if you can extract value from it, given the information that everyone has. And so what happened, I think a while ago, was that someone was probably using a really, really old wallet, and then they managed to sign a transaction using the same. I'm not sure if I'm using the terms correctly because I'm not a Bitcoin guy. The same nonce, or they use the same random number to sign the key. So if you did that, what that meant was that your private key could be derived, and so people managed to derive the public key, and then take out the bitcoins from that wallet because the guy or girl managed to sign the transaction with a similar random number where you're supposed to prescribe a random number. Yeah, so that happened.
Got it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anyway, Flashbots, going back to Ethereum land, Flashbots blind auction era. It was truly a Wild West time. Looking back, this was, I would say, 2021 when Flashbots just started, and then they managed to convince a bunch of miners to run their proprietary node where they would be able to order transactions in a very specific manner, other than the order that they instead of the previous orders. And this was famously done with the RPC code ETH send bundle. And if that doesn't make sense to you, do not worry, we'll go through it a little bit on a very high level. So recall in Ethereum land, when you send a transaction, it is a individual thing. It is an individual piece of unit. It is a unit. It's not a bunch of transactions. But with the new RPC method, ETH_send bundle, what that meant was that you could tell the Ethereum node, hey, I would like to bundle these transactions together. And here's the kicker, it has almost free reverts at the beginning. There was a few hiccups here and there, but basically if your transaction reverted, if the bundle reverted, the Ethereum node would just not process it. This was quite different to normal transactions because even if your transactions failed and it appeared in the mempool, it would still be processed. You would still pay gas fees. But if you went through ETH_send bundles, you could theoretically get free reverts, and you had a guaranteed ordering of transactions, so you didn't need to spam the mempool anymore. So you could just send this, but the downside is you have to trust that middleman being Flashbots at the time, because they were the ones connected to all the miners. This meant that sandwich attacks became a lot more what's the word? The barrier to entry for sandwich attacks became a lot more lower, because now your risk of your sandwich attack not working, for example, where you buy the token and you're unable to sell it, became much lower, because you were given a guaranteed ordering of transactions. So people became a lot more ballsy. People started doing a lot more predatorial attacks, which was also not great for the public. But every you can't make an omelet without breaking any eggs, right? So yeah, that was the Wild West era with the Flashbots buying auction, with the introduction of ETH Send Bundle. What that meant was that you could have guaranteed ordering of transactions, and you could have almost free reverts, which meant that searches became a lot more ballsy, and which also lowered the barrier of entry, because now instead of infrastructure game, Flashbots abstracted away the infrastructure, and what you as a searcher just needed to do was be good at understanding the EVM and a little bit of financial math and the Uniswap XY equals K formula, and you were able to extract value from it. It was still the Wild West though. Shortly after all the sandwich attacks began, a poison token called Salmonella popped up, which managed to drain about 300 ETH in a few hours from searches. This was because back then searches just there was no real protection built into the bots. Like, people were just arbitraging, like the big players, for example, Ethermine, were just arbitraging through the Uniswap router, which was incredibly inefficient and wouldn't even work these days simply because of how inefficient it was. But back then, that was enough, and Ethermine was printing. And someone from DeFi Cartel thought of a way to game those searches, which is to deploy a poison token called Salmonella, whereby if you were a searcher who bought it, you could buy the token, but you couldn't sell it. And so what that meant was that you were stuck holding a token where you couldn't sell, and he profited roughly 300 ETH from it. Now, there are several evolutions for Salmonella. There is also Chum, where it targets like very specific bots using very specific opcodes. But we can also explore that later down the line. But if we have enough time. So yeah, that meant that the predators turned prey in this era, and obviously the searches that survive adapted and kind of built up the bots to be more resilient. Wasn't really much after this. It was just like incremental improvements, like having more other newer protocols come in, so you could extract more value. For example, UniV3, UniV2, and then you had like SushiSwap, and then you had Curve, and the introduction of other pools to kind of how do you optimally arbitrage from those pools. So these were very incremental improvements, and I would say the next big jump would be the block building era, where we currently are with MEV boost. So what that meant was that back then, when I said Flashbots blind auction era, it was essentially Flashbots was determining the block and giving it to the miners. The miners would then find the right nonce for the hash to mine it. But now, instead of Flashbots determining the transactions in a block, anyone can build blocks. Anyone can determine the whole transaction, the whole ordering of transactions in the block, which meant this opened up a whole new playing field, right? As a searcher, you're ordering like 3 or 4 transactions in the block. What if, you could order the whole block? The opportunities are now infinite. You could put this is if I remember correctly, this is almost like a knapsack problem, which is a P and NP problem. If you were to do it naively, simply because there are exponential amounts of ways to order the block, like given transactions A, B, C, D, like can you do A, B, C, D? Can you do A, B, D, C? Can you do A, D, B, C or D, A, B, C, right? You could even like the permutation of it, the ordering matters is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, anyone can build blocks now, and there are searcher builders out there, such as like Builder 69 or Icon Has Blocks or Boba Builder, which are searcher builders that build the entire block to maximally extract MEV. And we'll go through some of them later on. Yeah, anyway, this is the era we're currently in. You can order the transactions in the whole block, not just one segment of the blocks. And there are still instances where it's the Wild West. For example, on block 16964664, which was roughly, I think, April 2023, a malicious block builder managed to train 5 MEV bots, which netted him $20 million. And that's 20 million, not 2 million, $20 million by exploiting a bug in the MEV boost relay. Wow, like the Wild West. And the funny thing is because these guys that he trained are sandwich attacks. They're predators who are now turned prey. So they don't have a lot of sympathy for them. In terms of legality, I'm not too sure. I'm also not the sandwich, they call them the low carb crusader. But yes, this was the Wild West days, like 2023. I think it's a lot more stable these days. So a lot of the bugs have been patched. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, so rough timeline, we went through a rough timeline, flashboards gave you guys like rough examples of the different types of MEV. Let's explore the dark forest together instead of going through a boring slideshow. Okay, let me try and share my other tab. Can I share my Chrome window? Chrome? All right, let's share this. All right, can you guys see?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So this is my website, libevm.com. If you're curious, you can also browse it in your own free time. And you can see the latest bundles that happened just now on block 193260033. Someone managed to extract $6.05. For this one, someone managed to extract $98. Let's check it out. So we can see it happened in one transaction. So the user burned about $47, but tipped $1, which is very rare, I will add, and profited roughly $98. Like this is a very rare instance because usually if this opportunity was competitive, this would be the profit margins would be about like 1 to 5%, not 67%. So let's check it out. Probably incomprehensible, but this guy went from, let me zoom in a bit more. Yeah, this guy went from some amount of rep staked ETH. Sorry, some amount. Okay, this is 500. This is probably where he started. No, wait, somewhere he started from. It's so hard to read. Let me just go back to the. Okay, so he gained WST ETH. Okay, so he started from 431.84 wrapped STETH, and he ended up with 431.88 reps STETH. Now, if the ordering doesn't make sense to you, it's because UniV3 has something called optimistic swaps, where it gives you the token first, and then only do you give it the token. So rather than if you're going from token A to B, you actually get token B first, then you send out token A. So the ordering is a bit confusing here. But we can see that this guy started with 431.84 and ended up with 431.88. So doesn't seem like a lot, right? But we can also look at the best bundles of all time. Ruggers get rugged. Okay, where someone made $2 million in one trade. So this guy made $2 million in one trade. And let's see how they did it. So this happened on Sunday, March 11, 2023. So roughly a year ago. what happened here is quite a sad story, actually. Some guy, 0x8FF066 006 8FF, he had a token called 3CRV. And for those of you who are not familiar with what 3CRV is, you can think of it like a receipt to your bank deposit. So it's not the actual money. It's not like it's not like, it's not AUD, but it's a receipt to redeem your AUD. Okay, that distinction is very important. So he had 2 million, roughly 2,031,000 3CRV, a receipt for his USDC. And he told Kyberswap, hey, I have 2 million of this 3CRV token. How much USDT can I get? And Kyberswap told him, hey, you can get about 5 cents. Are you willing to do the trade? And he said, okay. And he did the trade and he got 5 cents. So something crucial to I understand is that this receipt is redeemable and it's tradable. When you redeem it, you would oftentimes get back the amount listed here plus a bit more, due to the nature of how 3CRV is structured. It's like it's a receipt to your bank account which accrues interest, if that's how you want to think about it. So this is a receipt that accrues interest, but he wanted to trade it on the open market. So he got 2 million 3CRV for 5 cents. And immediately after, this guy heard it and it's like, all right, some guy just swapped $2 million for about 5 cents. So the pool is in balance. Let me take out $1.45 and let me get back that $2 million receipt, of which I can redeem it for $2,085,000. Wow. Wow. This is like, if you think about it, that's kind of nuts. And they only bribed 23.78 ETH. I say only, but how much was that at the time? 37K. $37,000. They bribed $37,000 to get a $2 million paycheck. Kind of nuts if you ask me. This is like one of the, I guess, the fattest fingers I've seen in a while. But yeah, this was the 3CRV trade, which was one of the fattest trade I've seen in a while. And actually, we can see that 5 days ago, someone made a $1.3 million profit. I'm not too sure if this is a hack. Could be a hack. I'm not. Oh, interesting. There's many transactions. He gained about 5 million USDC. No, CUSDC, which is different. But he tipped about 430. What? Okay, I'm not too sure what happened. I haven't checked this out. But this transaction, yes, these are the fattest fingers. I'm not too sure. It looks like oh, it was the uni pump. Yes, it was the uni pump, and it was probably someone arbitraging the difference in the the compound V2 or RV2 compound, I think compound RV collateral pool, because the price oracle didn't update in time, so they managed to create that dApp. I think this is it. I'm not too sure, but just roughly looking at the transactions, it could be it, or it could just be like because of the 50% pump in one block, resulting in a lot of arbitrages. We can also look at like the builders, like we mentioned before. You could see that since the merge, some builders have made quite a bit of money, like the builder searcher era. I hope this loads. Please don't crash when I need you to. I have a feeling. Okay, great. Didn't crash. We can see that Beaver Build has made about 7,000 ETH, 7,800 ETH, and I think in today's money that's roughly $21 million. This, since the merge, is roughly a timeline of 1.5 years, by the way. So this is pretty fat. You also have Flashbots, Rsync, Builder 69. I mean, modest 2,000 ETH profit, but win is a win. We can, so Boba Builder here actually is a searcher builder where they do not profit from the builder side, but they rather profit in the searcher side. So we can see that in the block, Boba Builder actually profited like $409 in his block, whereas his builder only made like 0.03 ETH. That's roughly like 8 months ago. So Boba Builder, and if we look in this block, Etherscan block, you can see that most of the transactions, oh, okay, maybe they changed it. But the whole block is usually, there was one point in time where the whole block was just Boba Builder's transactions. Anyway, let's see what else. So we've talked about 3C versus CRV. We've shown you a bit of short tail. Yeah. So for short tail, it's quite. By the way, if anyone has any questions or want to see anything specific, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go through like live examples, which may or may not work. But yeah, short tails are like these sandwiches. As we can see here, this guy made roughly like 446. Happened a minute ago. So this is like an example of a sandwich. This is the front run, this is the victim transactions, and this is the back run. So they swapped 3.4 whatever to, they had Grok. They sold Grok for 7.6 ETH. The user then swapped 1 million Grok for about 7.5k USDC, which in turn went through the same pool, the wrapped Ether pool. It's like the wrapped Ether pool of Grok. And then, so that's buy. This is the buy transaction. This is the buy transaction from the user. This is the sell transaction from the bot. So he ended up with 7.58, and he started out with, oh wait, did I screw up? 4, this is position 6. All right, maybe I screwed up somewhere. ETH, oh, they gained Grok, sorry. They were going for Grok, so they gained Grok. They gained roughly 80, how much? 86 Grok, okay. So they gained 86 Grok. So they start with 415 Grok. Yep. So they were trying to go for Grok. So the reason why it shows the profit in ETH is because we actually calculate the token, the shitcoins profit against WEF, because a lot of times they are paired against WEF, and then we kind of sum them up, which is why you see like this tally here. But anyway, this is how a profit margin should look like. It's usually like 1 to 5% if the opportunity is competitive. And when I say if the opportunity is competitive, I mean that more than one people are going after it. Anyway, so that's like an example of a short tail MEV and ETHW. So for those of you who are aware, Ethereum actually went through a
Libevm, we have a
split.
question. We have a question in
Yep.
the chat.
Yep. EIP 4844 have any okay, so yes, it will have some implications. So someone asked, does EIP 4844 have any implications for MEV? The short answer is yes, because EIP 4844 introduces this new opcode called T-store, and if I remember correctly, T-store. Oh, sorry. Okay, wait, no, that's a Denkun update in proto-dank sharding. I don't think proto-dank sharding will have any implications, because I think it might have some implications on the L2 stuff, but I don't think it would have it on the mainnet stuff, which is what I'm focused on, because this is more like blob data where other L2s can use it. So I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm not too big brain enough to comprehend it, but I don't see it being used directly on mainnet. I can see it on L2s though, but I'm not well equipped to give that answer eloquently. And from Sid Code, how is MEV on L2s different from mainnet? Okay, L2s and mainnet are very, very different. The main reason is the infrastructure, actually, because on mainnet you can run your own block builder, or you can submit your bundles or transactions to a block builder. That means that they are the ones who are handling the infrastructure. So, and also block times on Ethereum are about 12 seconds long. So your compute requirements aren't super high. They're not. You don't have to like have super high compute. You don't need to find the opportunities within like a second. For example, on Avalanche or Phantom, where the block times are 1 second, and where there's no builder infrastructure, no flashbox infrastructure, you have to spin up your infrastructure to spam the network. Time is sent like the transactions are time sensitive, so you need to compute it quickly. Whereas in it might be cheap to send the transactions, but you have to be quick. On Ethereum, you can be slow, but you have to be precise. It's almost like you're shooting a shotgun on L2s or even a rifle on some L2s like BSC. But on Ethereum, it has to be a sniper rifle, because if you go for that opportunity, and you need to be the best at it. You need to hit the bullseye if you would like to get that opportunity, is the short answer. Yeah, anyway, hope that answered your question, Sid. All right, so ETHW. So for everyone who are aware, like ETH 2.0 happened, and there was a fork of ETHW. So Ethereum, let me zoom in. Proof of work fork. So there was a Ethereum proof of work fork called Ethereum POW, because some people disagreed that Ethereum should become proof of stake, and so they forked. What that meant, but they also forked when Ethereum POW forked. They also retained a lot of the state. They retained all of the state actually of Ethereum up until that point. So let's go back to a little lesson, a little history time. So Curve.finance got hacked. So Curve.finance got hacked on roughly July 30th, 2023. It's not ETH Classic, cat, by the way. It's ETH POW, just something. But there's also ETH Classic, which is a little bit different because of the DAO. But we're talking ETH proof of W. Yep. So Curve.finance got hacked on July 30th, 2023, and the ETH 2.0 block time. I don't know. Anyway, ETH POW time. Okay. Anyway, when POW happened, it was around September 2022, not July 30th. So when the fork happened, when the Curve Finance got hacked, what that meant was that the Curve Finance exploit was also on ETHW. The thing was, if we look on ETH POW price, ETH POW is roughly $3 today. It's like 1/1000 of what Ethereum is. But when you have $69 million and you have one thousand of $69 million, it's still a lot of money. So let's see what exactly happened. 0x Mouseless. Yep, so one guy found out about it. His name is Mouse, 0x Mouseless. And this essentially documents it. So ghost chain MEV activity. So someone managed to capture about 9,470 ETHW, about $16,000 at the time. I think is a little bit more. I think it's like 30,000 right now, by replicating the Alchemix Curve Finance on the ETH POW network. So the crucial thing to understand was that this event happened 6 hours after the initial attack on mainnet, which is nuts. Like you had $16,000 just sitting there waiting to be collected for like 6 whole hours. Yeah, I don't really know how to. Yeah, I don't really know how to elaborate the fact that there's like so much opportunities out there that if you know where to look at the right place, you might be able to hit it big. Anyway, so ETHW done. Give birth from CryptoKitties. So for anyone who has been around for a while, probably knows what CryptoKitties is. What I can guarantee you though is that you guys probably don't know that CryptoKitties has a function called give birth. So give birth, if I remember correctly, is 998 or whatever. Maybe I'll just copy give birth. Ether scan give birth. Yep. So, is it here? No. Okay, CB CryptoBots. No. CryptoKitty. CryptoKitties. Hopefully that works. Yes. Gene Science. I'll just copy this and hope for the best. CryptoKitties token tracker. If we go to CryptoKitties, I hope. Go to the gift birth. God damn it. It just happened 10 hours, 39 minutes ago. Okay. So when you call the function give birth, I'm not making this up, give birth, you get paid 0.008 ETH. But this guy actually used more money than usually when you call give birth, you would like to receive 0.008 ETH and you would like to spend less than 0.008 ETH. But this guy did the opposite. He spent more than he received. So not great, but we can probably see more. Let me try and find a couple more examples. Give birth. So it happens quite like every hour or so. Give birth 0.008, 0.001. Oh wow, people are just paying to give birth now. No one's actually extracting it. Oh my god. Maybe I need to go back. Yes, this is one example. So if you did this 4 days and 2 hours ago and you called give birth, you would pay 0.006 ETH and you would get 0.008 ETH. Which doesn't sound like much, but I think it's like $10 or something. 0.0 times, I think 3,300. $6 US. So I think USD to SGD, that's like perfect, great number, 8.88 Singapore dollars. Great, perfect. So there's like a lot of these quirky stuff out there where you could like where you can find like very, very weird opportunities out there. Very, very obscure long tail stuff. This is one example of a long tail function, long tail opportunity. You call function and you get money. And I guess last but not least, we can check out keys.lol. I know you guys might laugh, keys.lol. So for anyone who knows how Ethereum keys works, is that it's essentially a number between 1 and 2 to the power 256 minus 1. So there's like as many possible keys as atoms in the universe. So it's almost impossible to guess the right private key. It's computationally unfeasible. But key 1 is also a valid private key. Key 2 is also a valid private key. So it's key 3, key 4, key 5, key 6, key 7, and key 8 all the way, because it's just a number, right? Occasionally, these wallets have money. For example, this wallet has 83 cents in BNB. And 5 days and 9 hours ago, someone transferred 0.0133 ETH, which immediately got sent out to 0xD77 because this is a known private key. Now, this is because people are listening to this particular address and this particular wallet, but sometimes you get transferred ERC20 tokens like USDC, USDT, Cannoli ETH, which I think, if I remember correctly, is worth, how much is it worth? I don't need, like, Cannoli ETH now has a price. How much is each? 2 cents, but they transferred 1,066 Cannoli ETH, which is roughly $200. Which is an ERC20 token. But what that meant was that you could bundle, but the problem is, like, even if you have the key, you need to give it gas for the transaction to be, for you to extract the ERC20 token. But if you send it in a bundle where you send gas to it and immediately use the gas to transfer out the ERC20 token, you would get free $200. This has happened 167 days ago, by the way. So yeah, there is a lot of random side quests if you would like to explore it, if you know where to look. Yeah, I think my time is running up actually. Got 10 more minutes. I can probably blab a little bit more. Oh, sorry, there's a question from Sid. Has there been any regen applications of MEV so far? But can you clarify what do you mean by regen? Do you mean like?
Like for example, like Octant as an organization uses the staking mechanism of ETH to like stake close to 100K ETH, and distribute the rewards from those staking proceeds to public goods funding. So has MEV been ever used for
Yes.
an application
So
that's not directly profit related?
no, the whole point of MEV is that it
Yeah,
is
exactly. Like, has it been
yes.
redirected to a more regenerative
Yes,
cause?
yes, it
Okay.
has. Optimism, actually, how Optimism funds a lot of these operations is that every time you use the optimistic chain, they extract the MEV from it. But instead of
Oh,
profiting from it, they like fund projects with like the through the OP tokens and stuff like that. So that's like the only example of regen MEV that I can think of. It's because Optimism runs the sequencer, so they have ultimate control over how the transactions are being ordered.
oh, so that's what funds retro PGF and like
Yes,
other.
correct.
Nice. That's good to know.
Yes.
We have about 7 more minutes, so if anyone has questions, feel free to like ask. But like so far, it's been so entertaining watching this wild side of crypto.
Glad you enjoy. There is also like I guess we can quickly check it out. So this was a little bit older now, but back then I don't know if anyone knows MakerDAO. Back then when it first started out, DAI was not $1. DAI actually hovered up to $1.06. So for every I'm talking about MEV here, long tail MEV on front running the governance proposals, and I bracket here with conviction. What I mean by that is that so DAI is a governance project backed by MakerDAO, where DAI is supposed to mimic $1. But at some point in time, there was so much demand that it actually was hovering above like $1 for like a good month. So from this period of time, it's spiked up to like $1.06, like $1.03, $1.04, which is terrible for a governance token. Back then, what you could do was that you could mint $1.10 of USDC for one DAI. So you collateralize $1.10, 1.1 USDC, and you get one DAI. However, I can't find a governance proposal now, so you just have to trust me, bro. However, the MakerDAO community decided to say, hey, because DAI is depegging all the time, there's so much demand, why don't we just open up a proposal and let you mint 1.01 USDC for DAI? And if anyone in the audience catches that, um, that arbitrage, congratulations, you knew a lot more than me because a quant trader friend had to explain it to me before I actually caught it. What you could do now is that you could open a very, very big position where you shorted DAI, because what that meant was that DAI should never go above $1.01 USDC anymore, because you can just collateralize it and arbitrage it on the open market. So that's what I mean by like front-running governance proposals with conviction. Um, and you could do it in size because there was how much trading volume? There's like $73 million in trading volume. So you could have done that in size. And this was on Curve Finance, which was like a stable swap pool, meaning that slippage was a lot less for large amounts. Anyway, enough of me blabbing. Hope everyone found it interesting. Thank you guys for listening. I know it's been like an hour. This is my Twitter at libevm if anyone wants to check me out. I also run penguinbuild.eth, libevm.com, and if anyone's in Melbourne, please let me know. Check out ethmelbourne.co, or yeah, if you have any questions, I think we got like 4 more minutes. Put it down in the chat, or we'll just say our goodbyes, I suppose.
Yeah, so as next steps, I'll be adding libmev to the kernel Slack, and we can have a dedicated channel for MEV discussions and history lessons like this. So feel free to share questions there as well. So like
Like,
I would like to say
yeah,
thanks, and we're getting thanks in the chat. I
hello?
think
Can you hear me?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
thanks. No, I'm just very curious, like, what got you interested, MEV, and then you seem to be like full on into MEV from then on. Like, what was the thing that really got you hooked, and then you went on from there? That's all. Thanks.
Oh, I wasn't into it. My quant trader friend was really into it because he was like, because we actually arbitraged the DAI thing in public, and we were like 5 blocks late, and we still managed to get like a few $1,000s just from arbitraging that. And then he was convinced that there was no competition in the space and we should go full on, which was true to some extent. That was and it was COVID, and I needed a project to work on, so that's how I got into MEV. Not because I enjoyed the finance markets or anything, but rather just because I had nothing else better to do. And in fact, like I actually took a long break between the blind auction era, like the blind auction era and the builder searcher era. I took a year off because it felt very pointless to me. Like you're pushing numbers around in a virtual database, and it felt like I had no impact at all. But then I realized, you know what, I really enjoyed it. Why not? No real. I'm sorry if the question was very, very. The answer to the question is not very inspiring, but that was how it was.
No worries. Thank you very much for your honesty. Thank
Yeah. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
Anyone else
thank
have any
you.
more questions? If not, we'll happy to call it a day, and then yeah, happy to join the Slack. Thank you everyone for
Yeah, just one last question.
yeah.
Some useful resources people can get their heads into to learn more about, let's say, from like foundational to the more intermediate level.
You mean in terms of coding or in terms of
Sort of both,
like what are you
actually,
sort of both?
from the
I
MEV's
think
perspective.
MEV, I think getting started. There's like one really good one, not this one, not this one. I think is it this one? Blah blah blah. M88. M88 is pretty good. I know there's like a lot of fluff. I am new to yes, this is the good one. From the mteam.space. This is a pretty good summary, and then it gives you like a bunch of overview, like where to go, blah 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 blah, and you can check out the popular open source JavaScript bot is Subway, and if you click on it, oh, it's made by someone else with the same cat photo. Anyway, just FYI, 3 years ago. Uh, but yeah, this mteam.space, that's a good one. That's a good starting point. And the Cow blockchain from Berkeley, this is just a bunch of links to other things, which I'm always not that useful. Personally, I prefer mteam.space. That's the one that I think has a little bit more sauce in it.
Ooh, thank you so much. Like, if we have no more questions, like, I just have one closing question, which is like, what's next for you in this MEV space? And like, where do you see the future of MEV going?
Well, we're currently doing some block building, and for the next space would probably be a little bit more. Where I'm seeing it going is there's going to be a lot of private mempools popping up. Remember how I mentioned, like when you're a user, you're sending your transactions to the public mempool, like people can see your transactions. So I think that in the future there'll be a hybrid of public and private mempools because of the whole decentralized block building thing. So what that means is that there'll be a lot of off-chain orders. For example, CowSwap, where you sign a transaction, like an intent even, or sign a transaction saying, "Hey, I'm willing to swap 1 ETH for 3,000 USDC," and someone else picks up that order and fulfills it, rather than you submitting a transaction to buy 3,000 ETH with 3,000 USDC with 1 ETH. That would go through a private mempool. They call these things OFA, or order flow auctions. So that's kind of where I see the future kind of heading to. You have like all these solver markets to solve these auctions, and then the public mempool would slowly dry up. It'll be more like the public mempool will still exist, but it wouldn't be for the juicy arbitrageable transactions. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Like Fav has 2 comments. Like if you want to comment on that, and then we can close out.
Sure, yeah. Someone asked, encrypted transactions to eliminate MEV risk. It's not encrypted transactions. It's just private, so you don't broadcast it to the public, the transactions will ultimately get mined, but it wouldn't be known publicly beforehand. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Thanks everyone. Yeah, I'll proceed with the things that I said, adding libevm to Slack, and then we can have more discussions on the topic. Thank you for
Awesome.
being so kind with your time and like giving us such a good history lesson, as well as like looking at it in the future. Thank you.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you,
thanks
Libby.
everyone for